Now, Florida is all
Good
around
evening
that
and
area.
welcome. When this week began, hardly any of you ever think about storming.
Get the safer and more
Grammy
grounded
was
weather
talking about
most
along
states
the
in the south
Florida
east are
coast
also
and
under
across the
hurricane
deep
warning
south.
as they get ready for Helene's emphatic
I'm
flooding.
meteorologist Miss McGiffin is joining us now.
We are tracking Hurricane Helene. Chief Meteorologist Tim Buckley here with you, wanting to explain where the storm is, where it's going, and what it's all going to mean for us specifically in North Carolina.
Hi, I'm Amberly Buff, the 911 manager for McDowell County. Our Helene officially started Wednesday night, September the 25th, when we started working multiple water rescues due to heavy rainfall. Friday morning around 9 o'clock, we started noticing some issues from McDowell County 911 Center itself, and we started trying to make contact with different agencies to try to make sure that we could stay stable when we realized the utility outages were beyond our control. Our internet went down, radio started having issues, our phones ended up going down completely. Some of the challenges for us were holding dispatch during the main part of the storm. Another struggle for us was having units out in the field that we couldn't necessarily reach. And then on the operations side, they had units out on their side that we were not aware of because we were working so many different calls and the call volume was so high that we did not have power on all of our units. Thankfully, during the event, our CAD stayed up internally, so we were able to continue to log our calls. We did, like I said, we constantly, within a 12-hour period, continue to have about 800 calls. When the storm kind of subsided and we started coming up out of the main storm, we had 480 calls still pending that we needed to go through and look through and make sure that we hadn't missed anything of high urgency. During the event and as the event prolonged, we ultimately had multiple different dispatch centers set up. The challenges that we had were we were not able to really communicate by phone with them, so the only communication we had was by radio. Like I said, we had the primary and the backup center, and then EMS had multiple strike teams that came in, and they created ultimately their own dispatch center. So they were helping us dispatch their calls. As we would CAD the call and add it to the spreadsheet, they would see the pending call and then they would dispatch the ambulance for us. The challenges for us, like I said, was little to very, very little to no communication with them other than text messaging sometimes, radioing, and through the spreadsheet. EMS did really good at helping us keep up with these units, and we tried really hard to help EMS with the documentation of directions because that was a challenge for all the responding units.
My name is Adrienne Rivera-Jones. I'm the Deputy Director for McDowell County EMS, and for the Hurricane Helene incident in the EOC, I've served as the Public Information Officer as well as Deputy Incident Command. And to talk a little bit about pre-storm response and preparation and what that looked like, we had a lot of partnerships in the room days ahead. We activated the EOC. We had shelter plans in place. We had all of our equipment pre-staged. We have really robust checklists from previous storms and responses and training. And so I really attribute our pre-storm preparedness and success to a lot of the training and partnerships that we've built over the years, other storms that we've responded to, lessons learned. Many of us deploy to other parts of the U.S. and other parts of North Carolina for response when it's requested, and we always bring back things that we've learned from that. So as far as preparedness, I feel like we were as prepared as we could be, and everyone was really pulling their load pre-storm to get us ready. One of the biggest successes that I would give us pre-storm for response would be our door-to-door knocking campaigns, and so we knew our typical areas that flood. We wanted to prepare those citizens and alert them, not just with your standard Nixle or weather alerts on your phone, but we wanted to put local faces out with flyers. Not mandatory evacuations. Sometimes that can upset folks, or maybe they feel like you can't tell me I'm leaving my home, and so that's not how we approach it. We really just like to put a local face out there and say, hey, here's what we know. We want to help you prepare, and we highly encourage you to leave the area. And so we did thousands of flyers, and we went door to door, so law enforcement, State and local partners came together, EMS, rescue, and fire, and we went door to door to all of our flood-prone areas and encouraged folks to leave ahead of time. We even had residents post-storm tell us, I wouldn't have left had someone not came and had the forethought and care to knock on my door and tell me I should leave. On September 26th, which was actually the day before the storm technically hit, we had a lot of rain. Our EOC was activated, and we actually were already conducting swift water rescues. We had our shelter prepared and ready. We had multiple shelters selected and prepped with equipment. Our original plan was to open those on the morning of the 27th, but we actually ended up opening shelters on the 26th because we were already evacuating folks from their homes due to flooding and swift water. So that led us into the early morning hours of the 27th. Again, the hurricane still hadn't arrived. We were already conducting swift water rescues. Parts of Marion, we had already moved into mandatory evacuations to reinforce that we needed folks to move to higher ground to get to safety. And then early morning on 9/27, pre-hurricane hitting, we already had a flash flood emergency issued by the National Weather Service. That's a very rare thing that they issue. Rarely happens. I can only think of one other time in my career we've had a flash flood emergency be issued. Early morning on the 27th, we lost power, so our EOC was on generator power as the hurricane was hitting and the winds were picking up. Phone lines were down, communication was down across the county, even before the throes of the storm had hit. So before we had our biggest impact, power was out, phones were out, our 911 center was down. So communication, while still we were fortunate to maintain radio communication, having no cell communication and the radios just being inundated really created a stressful situation for everyone with being able to communicate accurately where to go, but also from a safety perspective. We also realized early on responders were getting trapped under bridges, trees were falling on both sides of them. It became an incredibly unsafe situation. And so we had to make the difficult call to go to life safety missions only. And so what that meant was we had to leave calls in queue and wait for the storm to pass, because it started to not make sense to send units and personnel out until we got to a place where the winds had died down and it was safer to respond, because otherwise we risked losing responders and not even being able to make it to these calls.
Hello, my name is Paramedic Boone. I'm a paramedic with McDowell County EMS. I have been since 2017. I've been a member of McDowell County EMS since 2013, so this is my 11th year in service. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the Helene response, the inland hurricane that no one thought was possible. On September the 27th, it was a Friday, that evening I was assigned to an overnight op into a place called Armstrong Fish Hatchery. Part of that op was mainly just making access to people there, but the calls had come in from that area about 12 or 13 hours prior. We had a pretty busy day, and by the time I made it into our headquarters, I was assigned to be the TAC medic on an 8-man hasty team. With that being said, I was transported to 226A, which is the area in the northern end of our county in which the fish hatchery is located. We made our entry at 2100 hours. We were destined to take about we averaged at about a 6-hour hike up a mountain with some pretty steep incline with lots of debris, lots of log jams and some landslides. We knew that we had a lot of danger, but we decided to hike up to the peak of the mountainous area and then descend from there onto the hatchery because the road was impassable by vehicle and by foot. At 2100 hours, we made our entry. Immediately we figured out how dangerous it was going to be, as the power line that was clear at one point was no longer clear. It had a lot of tree debris and some landslides. So it actually took us about 9 hours to make it to our access point, in which there was one injured patient that we knew of, and we were to secure any kind of rescue or recovery on the way in. It was a high probability for recovery, but unfortunately for us, it was more rescue than anything. It was about 4:45, 5 o'clock in the morning when we finally made access to the people that had made the initial call. They were inside of their home. They had a small generator that was running out of gas, and they didn't have a lot of time left. They had a Starlink. That's how they were making access with the outside world. I made access to one patient who was in his house when the magnitude of water swept it away, and it almost swept him away also. He was crushed by his door trying to escape. He was able to get unpinned from his door, and he swam through the river and the debris and made it to the roadway. He crawled to where he thought his neighbor's house would still be, and fortunately for him it was, and they were able to get him out of the flooding zone, and they had him inside their house and had made him as comfortable as possible. When I made access to him, he was still conscious and he was alert. I was able to do some ALS care. I made him comfortable for the night, and we started discussing on what we would do for evacuation. As said before, the hike in was 9 hours. We peaked to the top of what's called Snow Hill Cemetery, and then we went down from there to Armstrong Creek Road. We climbed through countless landslides and tree debris. That was the main timing of the hike. That's what caused us to have to inch our way through. We went under logs and through log jams and dug out some landslide areas and crawled and made some serious water crossings. It wasn't very cold, fortunately for us. At one point I experienced a little bit of hypothermia because I got way too wet doing the water crossings. I wasn't really paying attention. I was physically and mentally exhausted, and when we finally had a moment to stop, my body let me know. I had some incidents where I was mildly in and out of consciousness. Not really sure if it was just from the dehydration, the physical exhaustion, or the hypothermia. But luckily for me, I was with a great team. They took very good care of me, and they got me back up on my feet, dry and warm. Very fast, we were able, like I said, to make that access to that patient. We had about a 55-minute nap right there in the driveway. We slept on some gravel, and it was probably the best sleep I ever had in my life. We woke up the next morning, and as the sun came up, I realized, through all that, watching the sunrise after all the storm and destruction, that there would still be hope. So we made a plan. Originally, the plan was to see if we could get enough manpower and equipment to make a road into us or cut out a pathway the way we came in, but the carry out for that patient would be just ill-advised in my opinion. So the EOC was able to access the NC Heart team, and they sent a Black Hawk. They were able to land that Black Hawk on one of the raceways where they housed the trout, and we were able to load my patient and all the residents for that first op to evacuate them to 221 North. We ended up finding a total of 28 people that were alive. We were glad to note that every resident in the Armstrong Creek area had made it through the storm. This was one of the most physically and mentally challenging ops of my life. It's probably one of the most dangerous ops any medic in our history at McDowell County EMS has ever been sent on, and it was a pleasure to be a part of it, and it was an honor to be chosen for it. I probably wouldn't do it again, so hopefully this 100-year storm lives up to its name and I don't have to see one like it again, but if so, we'll be ready. A lot of people like to say, come hell or high water, we're coming for you. My version is, come Helene or high water, we'll be coming for you. So we're ready for the next one. God willing, we won't have another one. I'm just really thankful that myself and the team I was on made it out unscathed, and that we were able to rescue everyone in the Armstrong Fish Hatchery. And the story could go longer, but that's pretty much it in a nutshell. We made a plan, we executed it safely, and we were able to accomplish that based on that plan. So we're thankful, and I hope that everyone that hears the story doesn't just reflect on Paramedic Boone, but on every responder that had a part in the storm. And thank you for your time.
Hey everybody, my name is Brady Blanton. I am a paramedic with McDowell County EMS, as well as a dispatcher for McDowell 911 Center, and I'm also the creator of this video. Today I want to talk about Hurricane Helene through the eyes of me, one of the paramedics. Just one of the stories. At one point, we were on our way down to a call in Digetsville, and me and my partner actually had a handsaw, and we were just having to go about 10 feet, saw the tree that was down the road. Once we got enough room to clear it, then we would go down another 10 feet, have to saw the next tree that's down. So we did that for about 5 miles down the road, and then there was a point where we just couldn't saw the tree anymore. So we had to put that call back in the pending or the queue calls. After that, we just kept running call after call after call. I think it was around 800 calls that we fielded in 12 hours on Friday. On our way back from that call, we ended up getting blocked by another tree. So now we were blocked by trees on both sides of us, couldn't move anywhere. And then multiple other ambulances with us were also just stuck in place because of trees falling down everywhere. So we finally saw our way back to our headquarters, and then that's when they made the decision to do life safety missions only. I can't remember exactly when the strike teams came in, but it was such a relief to all of us working on the truck to have the strike teams in, because they just provided a huge and much needed relief for us, because there was countless amount of us at EMS that we were in charge of people's lives, but running on very little sleep, if we had any sleep at all, for days upon days upon days. So once the strike team came in, it kind of helped settle down a little bit for the paramedic side. However, for the EMS operations and dispatch side, I'm transitioned to there primarily, while the strike teams kind of handled all of our calls. I transitioned to EMS operations, and my main job in there was to have unit accountability there. We had over 30 different ambulances going at one time. So trying to keep track of 30 different ambulances and all the people on there and get them the right directions to that call, because they're not from here. We had some from Wake County, some from Forsyth County, some from out of state. We had crews there from everywhere. So trying to get them the right information, as we're like the now third or fourth people getting this information from the caller. Get that information to the people responding to the call, get them the directions. And then, since they're not familiar with the protocols in our county, as well as the geography and our destination decisions, we basically had to help them with anything and everything. So we had to relay to the hospital whenever the crews were coming. So we had a lot on our plate at EMS operations, from getting the call from the 911 center to dispatching them, to giving them directions, giving them their information, to telling the hospital the information whenever they're en route to the hospital, and then helping the crews just with basic stuff that they may not know, and stuff like that. Some key moments and memories I'll have through all of it is remembering the people I met that came in to help us. Some scary moments and some challenges were whenever the storm was really hitting, and like I said earlier, we were worried about the dams breaking. I actually have a brother who's also a paramedic for the same agency. He was in a QRV near the Lake Tahoma Dam, and we tried to reach him on the radio. However, the radio service near that area is not good, and a lot of times you can't hear anything or you can't get out. So we've been trying to reach him on the phone, on the radio in multiple ways, but we couldn't reach him. And that's when we were really scared that the dam was going to break during that time. So that was really stressful, especially for me, since knowing my brother's out there, and I can't help him at this moment. We were all trying everything in our abilities to make sure that he is okay. The next part was just multiple of us not being able to have any contact with our families, not knowing if they're okay. One, because we were so busy trying to do everything else, and two, just due to the no communication no phones or anything. We couldn't get a hold of anybody, especially in our families. Another thing I want to talk about is the high priority calls we had during the storm, because not only were we dealing with the storm related calls, but we had our regular medical calls. People were still having their regular medical emergencies that we were having, and it seemed like as the storm went on, we kept getting more and more higher and higher and higher priority medical calls. We had multiple heart attacks. We ended up delivering 2 babies throughout the storm on the side of the road. Some of our crews did, and just legitimate medical emergencies that we had to deal with along with everything else. During the storm, we had multiple of our crew members having to deal with family emergencies as well, storm related and non-storm related. We had multiple crew members at the EOC who had deaths in their family, who had just traumatic things happen to their family while they were at work, and they could not get to their house due to all the trees and everything, so they couldn't get to their house to be with their loved ones during this tragic time. So I'm sure that was really, really hard for them. So we were trying everything in our ability to create comfort to our crews, because they were dealing with all this, plus the people out in the community. One thing I will say that was really encouraging is how communities bonded together to stay strong during all this. I remember us driving through Old Fort shortly after the storm and during the storm, and the people in Old Fort just really, really bonded together, came together as a family to make sure that everything was okay. They had meals for people, they had showers, they had bathrooms, they had multiple other things just to make sure that their community in Old Fort was okay. And you see all the signs of, WNC strong and Old Fort strong and stuff like that. So Old Fort kind of had their little community thing, and then another big one was the North Cove community, because they were isolated for a long time due to bridge outages. So we had multiple teams kind of up there help heading that up, and we had a lot of people in North Cove who also just came together as a huge family to make sure that their people were okay and they provided for each other. And that was really encouraging for me to see how the communities were bonding together just to make sure they're okay. So this storm was definitely one for the history books. Definitely do not want to relive it again. However, we did get some good learning points out of it. I think that McDowell handled it as good as we could, and for all the people who's watching this, thank you for watching my video, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Morgan. I helped oversee the shelter here at Glenwood Baptist Church during Hurricane Helene. I also am a volunteer with Glenwood Fire Department. I would say probably the greatest challenge that we had was it happening so quickly and never having anything like this to happen before. So we didn't have any experience to fall back on, but everyone worked really well together, and we faced every challenge that we came up against. I'm not really sure how many workers we had. We had a lot of volunteers who came through. We have people that came in through DSS. We had 2 staff from DSS 24 hours a day. They helped with managing the front desk, registering people, doing any chores that might need to be done. We also had staff from local Sheriff's Department outside McDowell County. We had staff from medical teams, doctors, volunteers, nurses. We had a lot of volunteers from our church who came in and ran the kitchen and helped clean, do whatever was asked of them. The most amount of people that we had in the shelter at one time was 233 people, and that was with us for just one night. We had many partners during our shelter time, And one of the partnerships that we had was with the animal shelter. And they, emergency management brought in, and I think they're called cast trailers. They brought them in on the day that we had planned to open the shelter, the day before, which was Wednesday. And they staffed those. So staff from local animal shelter and also surrounding. I think we actually had people all the way from Charlotte come in and man those trailers, and they would hold dogs, cats. We actually had one chicken, but we would also do a report every day of how many cats, how many dogs, how many animals that we had came through that shelter. It was powered by generators. They had electricity, water, whatever they needed. And like I said, it was staffed 24/7. We had great volunteers come in, donate food, snacks, and they even had some EMS staff who came in and helped walk dogs for us if the owners couldn't do it. I would say I don't really have one memorable story. I have many little memorable stories that make up one great big experience. I guess it started with that Sunday that right after the storm hit, and we had so many challenges that Sunday, and just how God had a hand in everything working out for us to provide a safe, warm environment for anyone who walked through our doors. We had so many people who walked in, absolutely nothing, covered in mud, brought to us by emergency personnel, carrying what little bit they had on their shoulders and their arms. We had a young mother walk in with her baby who lost everything, and as soon as she walked through our doors, we gave hugs, and she just busted out in tears because she knew she was safe. And that's the stories that we heard over and over from people, is that they just felt safe for the first time. We had people who came through the shelter who just lost power, who stayed with us and just became a part of our family. But we grew together, we partnered together, we became a family, and everyone just kind of chipped in and took care of each other. You couldn't tell the difference between our guests and our volunteers. We had amazing, like I said, amazing partnerships with so many people, with our EMS, with our medical teams who came in and helped out whenever we had so many people struggling with medical issues, but just so many wonderful stories and such teamwork, I guess, came together to make my most memorable experiences with the shelter.